Well, good morning, everybody. It looks like it's 10 o'clock. That makes this Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour, Thursday, June 16th, 2022, coffee hour number 107, I believe. Yeah. I have an announcement to make that's good news, and it's thanks to you guys. In a series of meetings and negotiations, the Mid-Atlantic Association has agreed that they would like to have us create a virtual enhancement to the event, so long as it doesn't include any demos. They've got all sorts of issues with that. So we're going to try and create a social enhancement at the September event, and I'll have more to say about that in forthcoming weeks. But we do have the go-ahead for it, and I've been acquiring some of the equipment that I'm going to need, and we will be prototyping some of the equipment at the Lancaster July picnic. July 5th is the next Lancaster Club meeting, and that's going to be a picnic at Mannheim Town Park. And everybody within range of here is invited, because the main event is the challenge of the month, which is a frisbee toss with frisbees you turned. So if you'd like to join us for the picnic, hamburgers, hot dogs, probably good weather, unlike our previous tries in past years. Get a hold of any of us in the Lancaster Club. We can give you directions, and that will be in July the 5th. So those are the upcoming events that I know about. And as I say, I'm going to have part of the thing I'm going to create for the Mid-Atlantic is a mobile kiosk that I can go around with and show a Zoom and Zoom screen and talk to people and interview them. And we'll be prototyping that at that event. Let me see.
John, what time is that picnic?
I think it starts at 6, but I'm not entirely sure. Barry might know. Barry's the secretary. Barry, do you know what time's the picnic start? He was here. He's wandered off. We'll ask Barry when he comes back. I think I see his screen up here. Yeah, he's not quite on screen. I have to say that the Mid-Atlantic was persuaded, I believe, quite largely by our discussion last week. You guys gave it a full half of the hour, and we had about 50 comments from 15 or 16 people on. And I'm sure they all watched that video, and because most of the clubs and even the club leaders don't have ready access to a way of talking to a disparate bunch of turners, and we do. And we talked to all you guys, and we got a wide range of points of view, and I think they finally understood that there are people who are not going to come to the symposium. They can't come for a whole lot of good reasons. It might be COVID, it might be a family commitment, it might be too much money, it might be who knows. But they would like to participate in some way. And so the virtual component that we're going to create, which will be, I think, about 6 hours of live Zoom over the 3 days of the event, is an attempt to create a virtual component that will give a flavor of the event, and allow people to sample it and participate in it in a Zoom kind of way, but no demos. So if you want demos, you got to show up. So that's thanks to you guys, and I thank you all very much for your participation in that conversation over the last few weeks, and for your general encouragement to go ahead with this plan. The other thing I'm going to do today, and I'm taking liberties with you and with the hands up, is I'm going to show a short video of my own work that I made. And the reason I'm going to do that, frankly, is today is my 76th birthday. And that makes me feel entitled. I think that I remember, the apocryphal story about the New Yorker writer who stood up in the newsroom on his 35th birthday and declared that today he ceased to be a promising young man. And I think today I have to give up on being middle-aged. So with that, I'm going to attempt to switch over to, I'm going to switch computers and try and show you this little video. And I'm going to do that by switching to the Black Magic. And then I'm going to spotlight myself, if I can. Sphericon Box by John Kelsey. This is a sphericon, also called a twisted double cone. As you can see, it's a strange and intriguing shape. It's actually a solid of constant diameter. It rolls without any bumpiness, but without any up and down. It's actually a twisted double cone. See, there's a cone, and there's the other cone. You twist, and it becomes the sphericon. This particular example, the figure in the wood runs continuously all around it, as if it was chipped out of one piece of wood, which it was actually. And it's a box. It opens like this, and inside there's a ball, and inside the ball there are Chinese fortune cookies, or cookie fortunes. Now, here's the thing that I learned and I realized about these. This is a chuck that you would use to make this in its cone shape, double cone. Fits inside the chuck. You can hold these two blocks in your scroll chuck perfectly well. Hot glue this thing in here. It'll stay while you turn this end. Here's the thing. I make them like normally other people make boxes. I make the inside first and then the outside. However, once you've made a chuck like this out of two blocks, you can also invert the chuck. So it's like this. And now, the sphericon as sphericon also sits down inside there. And that means, using that chuck, you can chuck 1/2 of the sphericon, which is exactly what I did to drill out for the magnet. And these blocks are no longer symmetrical. They were when they began life. So with a spacer in there, or within a block that was actually square in section, you would have a perfectly fitting chuck with hot glue for the sphericon half. Isn't that intriguing? This is the gauge that I've always used to make sphericons. This is a right angle gauge, simply that. When the chuck has the chuck, there's a right angle. And when the sphericon, there's a right angle on the sphericon, there's another right angle. So in fact, it's a right angle double cone, a right angle in every dimension. In section this way, it is actually square. In section this way, it's round. And then when it's back to its double cone, to its sphericon state, it's neither square nor round. This is its section this way. You see? Isn't it an interesting shape? And there's the square again from that view. It's a very interesting shape. That led to one of these, sphericon box. And you would never know from looking at these two halves that anything would really fit inside there. It closes up to make a sphere. It's held with magnets. This was actually made from 4 blocks of wood. So here's a sphericon box with rather large vanes, just as by way of illustration. It was an early one in the sequence. It drops in there, and that drops on there. So there is the sphericon, like that, embedded within a sphere. Now there's another form of these that woodturners often make. These are by Peter Rand, a friend of mine in Ontario. He makes it, see what he does? He attenuates it. He carves out these spaces and he glues the two parts together. He calls these femispheres, and they're made out of Banksia nuts. And this is a set of 3. Very lovely little objet d'art. And here's a page from one of David Springett's books giving the basic definitions of twisted cones, which he calls streptohedrons. Here's an example made by Jacob Weisflog at our 2017 Mid-Atlantic Symposium. The Weisflogs call these drunken boxes because of the way they roll on the table. The Weisflogs use zebra wood, and when I first started making these, I used figured ash, which, like the zebra wood, allows the wood figure to follow across the two parts of the sphericon box. Before long, those boxes began to look garish to me, and I returned to my favorite woods, cherry, walnut, and pear, where the figure is subtle, but it still continues all the way around the box. It's just you have to discover it. It doesn't shove itself in your face. And fooling around with the chucks for a while, I realized I could make a cube with a sphericon box inside. So here's a 4-part cube and a 2-part sphericon box. And after making the cube, I began to make spheres with sphericon boxes inside, such as this example, also made in fall of 2017. This sphericon cube actually breaks down into 8 sections, each identical, that fit around the sphericon, and are all held together with magnets. And finally, I made a box elder cube with a sphere, not a sphericon inside. Both the cube and the sphere break down into 8 identical parts each. And if you really study on the wood figure, you'll get it back together, so every single piece is exactly where it was when it grew inside the tree. And finally, here's a PDF I made that shows the sequence for making the basic sphericon box. You start with 2 blocks of wood, carefully dimensioned, hollow them out with a tenon and a recess that accepts the tenon to make the spherical box inside the 2 blocks. Next, you rotate one of the blocks 90 degrees and then fasten them together using Turner's tape with pressure from the lathe tailstock. And finally, rotate them 90 degrees in the other plane so the taped together joint is parallel to the ways of the lathe. Now turn the block into a cylinder that's just as long as it is large in diameter. Mark the center line and turn the cone on one end. Then make the jam chuck, reverse the block, use hot glue to hold it in the jam chuck, and turn the cone on the other end. Sand and finish and maybe install some magnets and you're done. And I'm going to go back to remove the spotlight and get us a gallery view if I can. Yeah. How did you like that?
That's great, John. Hey, I'm a proud owner of a Peter Rand sphericon.
Haha, nice.
Peter's member. He's not a current member, but he's about 85 now. He was a retired professor from Brock University, and he and I harvested some beech about 15 years ago. I have the original. There was an article in Scientific American in the 80s, which I found. I have it squared away somewhere in my computer if anybody's interested in it.
I'm interested if you could pull that up. I remember that article, but I don't have it anywhere.
Okay. I'll find
it. Some of those years ago, and I've forgotten how I've done it now, and I don't even know where they're at anymore, but it was done on a different method than what you did there. They weren't boxes, though. They were just solids.
Solids, people often turn them out of a cylinder, and yeah, they do it a different way. You can start with a piece that is longer than it is wide, and turn it between centers. But you can't do that with a box, I don't think. Anybody else?
John, I see a market for it. Chinese restaurants should use those at the table to play with and to put their little messages in.
Do you have any idea how many hours are in that?
I know, but I could guess. It would be a year of eating dinner free at a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, pretty much.
John, I never made mine into a box. I never had time, but there's one.
Lots of people have fooled around with this, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Which method did you use?
Oh, Lord, I don't know. I made this on a shop. I made some other ones too. This is a, whatever you call these. I don't know. This is.
Does that open?
No. There's not enough in the middle to open, but it's actually turned. This thing is turned in a cylinder all the way around with a point out the end that's the same shape as this coming up. So when you cut it in half and index at 90 degrees, it goes together. This is a simple one that could be done that you can understand a little easier. This is just a cylinder turned the same length as the radius. So when you cut it in half, this could make a neat box and real quick. These are just fun things. I made them for the kids to play with when my grandkids were small.
You got any more?
I probably do, but
not right there. Okay, so I'm going to spotlight back off and go back to the gallery. Okay. Anybody else? Oh, thank you for indulging me in my little slideshow. Today is a show and tell day. And as you probably know, we use raise hand here. So if you raise hand, you pop up to the top of the screen, and I'm going to call on the people who popped up there in order. I know that I see Bill Majer's here, and he's got his slideshow ready, and I think Don has got something he wants to show. I do see a couple of new people here, including Janet Collins from Vermont. We often, Janet, ask new people, and I don't mean this week, but next week or the week after, to give us a slideshow by way of introduction. Would you be willing to do that in a couple of weeks?
I could probably do that.
That would be great. Janet taught for some years at North Bennett Street and is both a furniture maker and a woodturner, and is especially known for, she's figured out how to wrestle with curly and bird's eye maple and have it come out good, which beats me. So anyway, that's hello, Janet, and welcome
Hello.
on. Welcome to our Thursday morning call. Let me see. Dawn, what have you got today?
Right. Got a screen share.
Okay. I have a spotlight on you. Come on, your grandson taught you how to do this.
Yeah. There you go. After last week, Bruce showed us how to make this Ladybird money box. These are a couple of photographs. The first ones are what I showed when I did the trestle bowl. This is the sledge with my router on, and that's it set up when I was doing the trestle bowl. So I combined this to make the slot in the lid of the box on the lathe.
So that's just freehand on the platform there, is that right?
Just freehand on the platform.
Very clever.
Yeah, there you are.
Using an up spiral bit, or what did you have in there?
It was a two-sided piercing bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks great.
And there you are. It was just that I thought that as I came up with the idea of using that sledge to do the slot, it would just help with making slots in future and anything.
Well, that's a
great idea.
That's a very good technique for getting a router married up to the lathe anyhow.
Yeah, it's as I say, I was using it for my trestle boxes, as you can see there, where the piece on this little piece here is your depth gauge. So if you're doing a bowl and you don't want to go right through the bowl, then you set your depth gauge to whatever depth you want and just run it through the bowl to that depth. And all it is a saddle with a piece of wood on the top, which has got two screws. Put your Dremel or small router type thing, whatever you have, just inside, screw down the two screws so it's tight, and then you can adjust your depth gauge.
Yep, very good technique.
And the platform is purely a piece of 1-inch MDF with a spigot turned to match my banjo, setting just off of 1 inch, so that you've got it to cover the whole of the bowl that you want.
Have you got more slides, or am I going to?
That's it. Thank you. I just wanted
Don, before you can move on from that one, the little thing at the end that manages your depth of cut, does that have a bearing surface or a rub surface?
It's a bearing, a small roller bearing, screwed on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's screwed. It's a piece of aluminium which I've shaped and bent and screwed the ball race on top of that so that it does run. It's not fixed. So you roll with the wood, and that way you don't mark it. But if it was solid in any way, you tend to mark that wood as you're going in with the router, especially if you're putting a bit of pressure on.
I would just.
And you don't make an attempt to match the diameter of the bearing to the diameter of the bit, do you?
No.
Okay.
That would do any bit because it's just purely a depth gauge for going up against the wood to how far you're going with your gauge, your router bit.
I would just.
Thank you.
A round nose of wood to do that, but that's me. I do it crude.
Yeah.
Any questions for Don? Okay. Ron Sheehan, what do you have today?
Forgot to unmute. You're talking about the symposium. I'd like to appeal to anybody that's here, local or not. If you're coming to the symposium, I need helpers to move the equipment into the hotel and set up the various demo rooms. So get in touch with me, ronsheehan39@gmail.com, and let me know.
What date will that be, Ron?
23rd of September.
That's a Thursday, right?
Yeah, usually in the past we've moved in on Thursday. I'm looking at my calendar here. Symposium's 23, 24, and 25 of September. 22nd is Thursday. Usually we've been able to get a room that we can store the equipment Thursday evening. So we do all of the running and loading in on Thursday.
And how many helpers do you need for the team?
And if you're helping out, there's no lifting involved. It's all on rollers. We roll it out of the storage down an elevator into the truck, and then out of the truck into the freight elevator at the hotel and up to the third floor. All the carts are on wheels.
How many helpers do you need, Ron?
I'm gonna need probably 4 as a minimum for hauling in, and whatever we can get to set up. We'd like to get it set up by noontime on Friday morning, 1 or 2 o'clock. We're usually done setting up if we have the right crew, but half a dozen people would be good. And then I need help Thursday moving the stuff in, Friday morning set up, and Sunday afternoon to move the stuff back into storage.
And when does it go back to the people's shops? On Sunday or Monday?
Everything will be done Sunday.
Sunday. So you remove it from the center on Sunday and to redeliver it back to where it came from Sunday afternoon, evening.
Yeah. What we plan is we'll take the thing up, the one lathe up to New Holland, the coffin kitchen, drop it inside, and they'll take care of lifting it back up the stairs. But
okay. Any more questions for Ron on this? I'm going to remove the spotlight, Ron, and go back to a gallery so we can see anybody want to stick their hand up and talk to you about it. Anybody who can help with Ron, get in touch with him. Dux, I'm going to skip you and come back to you because I know that Bill Majer has got a slideshow that I'd like to get to that I think everybody's going to like. Is that okay with you? Dux?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Bill, spotlight on you now. We rehearsed this before, so you ought to be able to make it work.
I should be able to make it work. We'll see how well I paid attention.
You live in Morgantown, don't you?
Yes.
We got him.
You're there?
We're there.
Okay. And I'm unmuted and all that fun stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for helping me. This little demonstration will only last 3 or 4 minutes unless people have questions. This is intended to be an introduction of my shop and some of the work I've done and my lathe and stuff. So this is one picture of my shop. It has a lot of equipment in it because I used it to build pool tables. And I used to do that till about 2012 when I was recruited by my brother to be a design engineer for his company, which required a certified AutoCAD person to work in, and that's how I qualified for that. So this became a hobby. So I still have this shop like this, which I enjoy, and I also enjoy the lathe. So here's another view of tool storage, which John has asked us to show examples. I'm a backbench believer, so this particular shop is set up for 3 people to work in at the same time, even though it's small. And I put all the tools needed at each location on a backbench, which is accessible by the person working. To the left of this table saw is the bench that I was showing you a second ago. So it supports all the work that gets done on that table. Over on the right, there's another bench that is on it's a chop saw on that side, and that's used along with this 12-inch joiner over here to face and plane boards. So that's what that was for. So I need to minimize this to get to the arrows again.
So the arrows are there anyway. They're always there.
Okay. So in the back of my shop at the far end from the first view, you see here on the right-hand side is my...
Enlarge that again the way you did a minute ago. Yeah, that's it.
On the right here, the blue is a shop-bought CNC machine. And the back bench to support the work that went on there is right here with the sharpener on it and the little lathe. This was here for the guy working on rails, which was what my role was besides being the owner of pool tables. I CNC'd the rails and I put them together and put in the mother of pearl diamonds and so forth in there. And so I'm going to get back to that in a minute. So this is a picture of my CNC machine, the 4x10 work area. It's missing one spindle. This spindle here can be used 2 times for a 4x8 work table that becomes 4x10 work table, which can become 2 2x10 work tables at the same time. And the 2 spindles run at the same time from the same program to cut 2 parts instead of 1, which was really great when I was doing pool tables and trying to get them done fast. I'm going to get to a picture to show you the CNC in action if we have time, but this is more for introducing me and showing you what my shop can do. So I first started using a lathe seriously just 6 months ago. And my biggest challenge at first was to get my chisels sharp. And so I spent weeks trying to come up with a better way than buying this Sorby machine. But that's what I use now to sharpen my tools, and it's not an issue anymore. And I use this central machine company or lathe. It's a little 10 by 18 lathe, and that's what I use to make parts. Oops, didn't necessarily want to see that. Well, my interest in using a lathe was started here. This is a truck that I always have my grandsons come inside in the winter, and we work on projects in my shop. And this was one of the trucks that I helped my oldest grandson build several years ago. And that made me get interested in making nicer trucks. So this is one that my other grandson wanted to make, but of course he was young, and I did most of the work, but he was helping. So that one became fun. This one's a popular one because you can see that the lathe was used to make the wheels, but sometimes people are confused as to how I made the tread. So basically these wheels were made round on the lathe and hollowed out with a drill bit or a lathe or a chisel, I forget. And the tread was cut on each of the tires by jigging them to Majer gauge on a table saw. And you go back and forth on the table saw blade to make each tread. And then when you're done cutting the slots, you glue the 2 halves of the board together. And that's how it came up with those nice monster tires. And that's on display in my family room. This is another truck I made, this is not along the lines of a toy truck. This is more of a collector's piece because it's so detailed and authentic. But you can see here on the hose nozzle on the back bumper, I had to make that on the lathe, which I did. And this little fire extinguisher on the back bumper was also made on a lathe by me. And then the gear shift I made. And I wanted to make these tires, but tires, because I wasn't good with the lathe, the tires were beyond my experience. And so I ended up buying tires. But I think I have one more truck to show you. Yeah, this one. This is a ladder truck, and I used the lathe to prepare these dowels to work together, one inside the other, to make the ladder go up and down and swivel. And I also used the same technique to make the exhaust system on the fire engine. So this one is gets a lot of conversation, and then that's it in my office on display. So I wanted to go back. How do I go back, John?
There's another carrot over on the other side, just like the one you were using. There.
Okay, there we go. So I want to show you one more thing, which has to do with pool tables, and then I'll be done. But I don't know why it skipped over those. Shop.
Do you turn pool cues as well?
I never did a pool cue, although I could. But my lathe isn't long enough to make a pool cue.
Okay,
I don't know what happened to my pool tables. And I don't know how to get back to that.
Okay, well, I'm gonna kill your share. And we can, if you can find them, we'll bring it back, or we'll do it another time.
Yeah.
Any questions for Bill? I'm trying to get back to a gallery view here now.
Bill, how did
Yes.
you make on the fire truck, the ladder truck? Will it stay up or down, or
It does stay up or down.
is it a friction fit, or what keeps it? Is there a spring in there, or what?
No, it's totally mechanical. It's the thing rotates because there's a dowel going through the bed. And when you lift the ladder up manually, you just stick a little block in a notch that was cut in the ladder to hold it in the angle that you want.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
But the ladder does extend, which is kind of cool.
Yep.
So anyway, that was the trucks. I wanted to show you some of the things I started working on in the lathe, but the share is gone. So
You can get it back if you got the pictures. If you got them up, you got to get one picture in the series up and then resume the share, or else we'll go to somebody else. And you can do it another week. We'll give you one more try fooling around here.
okay, well, I got the screen in front of me.
Okay. I'm going to give you the spotlight, but we don't see no share.
You don't see that picture?
No, we see your chin.
Shucks.
Chin's not that bad.
I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but go ahead and move on, John. And we'll look at my lathe experience later, which is really limited. I started learning how to do this seriously about 6 months ago. And I started turning so I could learn how to use the chisels. And I got sideswiped into learning how to sharpen chisels, which that took me a few weeks to solve that problem. And but anyway, I've made some things that I think are good, but they're very simple. To you experienced people, you would see these as not very challenging. But for me, learning how to use a skew, for example, and learning how to use gouges, these were in some cases pretty challenging.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing those in next week or the week after when you can bring it back.
Okay, I'll try it again later. Now I'm ready to listen.
I'm always on screen at 15-20 minutes before the coffee hour for the purpose of practicing screen share. So anybody who wants to can come on there and we'll try to figure it out.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
John, can I ask Bill a question or two?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Bill, who's the firefighter in the family?
Bill's muted himself.
Come on back, Bill. Bill,
that was me when I was younger. Not anymore. But I was a firefighter for about 10 years, and I gave that up because it became a young man's job, and I'm not a young man anymore.
That is the truth. I just retired after 27 years in the fire department.
Oh.
Did you when you came up with the plans for the trucks, was that your plans or did you find them out there on the interweb?
I found them on a website for Cherry Tree Toys. If you remember ever seeing them, they had plans for many, many things, and that was one of them. But I did take the basic plans that they had and I embellished them a bit to match the ladder truck that we had at our fire company. So that was fun, making it more realistic than what the plan was that I bought.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. They
Yeah,
look
thank
good,
you.
and guess what? We all started way back there with skews and scrapers and stuff, whatever it took to make it happen. So
Yeah.
don't worry about your stuff. Don't sell yourself short. It looks good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I did buy a book by Dale Nish because I really want to learn how to make Christmas ornaments and give them away at Christmas time. I'm done building big pool tables and other big furniture and stuff. These little Christmas ornaments are just the right size.
A lot of people do that. And
I have one of those that I've finished, but of course I can't figure out how to show you today. So I'll do that another time.
we'll have you another time. And this coffee hour is not ranked. You can come on here as a ranked bare beginner or an expert. We'll give you screen time either way.
Thank you.
As we're going to turn to Duxbury, who is a very experienced guy. What do you got, Jim?
Let me see here. I'll do a screen share.
Yeah, I bet you can do it.
Yeah, I bet. Can you see that?
We do see it now.
Okay. These glass things are called ampoules, and they look like a test tube, but they've got a little configuration. They're not supposed to be used like this at all, but they pour things in this, in the vial, and then they heat this neck here somehow and twist it, and it seals your sample in glass. I picked this up. They closed the school and built a new one, and they threw all these in the rubbish. And I picked out only about 250 of them or something. So I've got them for the rest of my life and then some. But anyway, I had to find a use for these things. So I turned these bud vase kind of things. This is a single one. That's Sapellian maple. This same kind of thing. Anyway, it's exposed. It's drilled all the way through, so you could see the whatever on the bottom here too.
Is that thing open at the top? Like, could you put like perfume in there or incense?
Oh yeah, you could. Yeah, it's like a test tube. This thing is you pour whatever in here, and this is a vial down the bottom, and you heat this neck here and twist it, I guess. Yep. Once it's molten, then it seals it in glass. But
now, do these things have a flat bottom on them?
Yes.
And so what they are, they're what, a bud vase, basically.
This makes a bud vase, yes. Anyway,
how'd you make those rings and get them so perfect as that? Are these layers, inlays? What's going on?
These are layered. This is, I should have taken pictures of the side. Maybe you can see it on the side here.
Yeah, so these are layers.
These are layers.
And in the center, you turn down into the middle layer. The
center is in here. Yeah. And then it's cut out later on the bandsaw. This is a piece of dark colored wood, whatever, with a thin piece glued on both sides, and then turned around, and whatever you do in the middle here. No, before you do anything, you drill down through the middle here, 3/4 of an inch. Then you turn this whole thing around with a center here, and all you have to do is have a center and it could be done on 2 centers, or it could be done on a center or the tailstock with a faceplate. But you turn one side of it and get it all done because you've got pressure in the middle here. And then later, once you've got this all turned, then you cut this out with a bandsaw, and you take the center out and the unturned center, remove the whole thing, so you've got a finished piece. And the inside here, I finished sand with a Dremel tool and that little sanding drum.
And is this the vial down below here? This
Down here, yes.
Okay, so that goes right on down
The
through.
vial comes all the way down to within about quarter of an inch of the bottom. I flatten the bottom on a 12-inch disc sander.
That's a very clever technique. Any questions for Jim?
Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
The other Jim's talking here. Just an illustration here. I can say this to Jim because he and I have chatted about it. Your color of your objects would pop even more if the white it was sitting on was true white in Photoshop or whatever processing system you were using, Jim. You understand what I mean? It's a little shaded off white. If you get white, then everything else becomes accurate. And this stuff's lovely. And if you just made the white where your arrow is down in there, made the white, everything else would pop beautifully. But it's nicely photographed anyways.
No, thank you. Between photographing, it's one thing to turn these damn things, another thing to photograph. Honest to God. Somebody says, send me a photograph. That's a half a day. I don't care if it's a pen or it's a elephant. You just.
I'm sorry, Jim, because I want you guys your stuff to look really good. And I say, boy, if I could just pop that white to white, your color would just be beautiful and it represent your work better. That's all I'm saying.
Well, thank you. Well, I use the regular background that costs a fortune, and then I buy these blue bulbs or whatever they are from the camera shop. But photographing's that's worse than wood turning. That's.
We could do on that one day too, but we probably won't.
This is Doug Reeser.
Yeah, Doug.
Have you considered actually sending one of how you made these to the AAW for an article? I think this would make a really cool article on how you put it for a lot of other wood turners.
Doug, you struck a nerve.
Oh, sorry.
I've got an article. My articles, when I send them in, are so complicated or so whatever, they sit there for at least a year and a half.
Okay.
I got one went in last July, and it's still sitting there. And I write a lot for Wood Turning magazine in the UK.
Okay. They use it all right away. They don't have much of a backlog.
Yeah. And I might do this, but anyway.
I'm just thinking that it's something from my perspective. Understanding how you made it, it actually turns out to be a fairly simple concept to make, but it's a very striking design and really pretty finish. So I just think that that's something that's would be doable for a lot of different levels of wood turners.
Well, thank you. Honestly, as much as turning these things, I enjoy sharing it. Yeah. John, you know what that is. If you could share this, you're not only sharing this turning and this procedure, you're sharing an idea that somebody else could pick up and use to make something else or to take it to the next level or whatever else. I get more out of sharing than wood turning. I really do when it works. Anyway.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think the test tube could be used in the same way, like a small test tube. It'd be easier to find than an ampule. I sold this stuff 55 years ago, and they're hardly used anymore, I would imagine. But
you're right. In fact, I was going to put a test tube in these, but test tubes, the last time I got a commission to make 3 pieces, I had one test tube that was the right size. The guy says, I want 2 more of those.
Yeah.
I had to buy 250 test tubes to get the doggone thing the right size and shape. And if you ever need test tubes, stop over here because I got a boatload of them. Anyway, it would work well with a test tube, and it would show up just about as well. In fact, it would work better as a bud vase with a test tube because the neck on this thing is pretty small.
You come to Chattanooga, Jim, bring a few with you.
You got
Yeah, you must have been buying them before Amazon. I just bought some test tubes. The smallest packing was like 30 of them in a box. It was only $13. I needed one for my granddaughter's vase I made. Boy, at least I didn't have to buy 250 of them. So,
Jim, how big are those pieces that you turn? What's the dimensions of them?
Maybe 7 inches in diameter or something. Should I hold one up? I can hold one up if you want to see one. But anyway, did I end share or did it quit? Or?
No, I ended share because you were winding down, and I got 2 more guys who wanted 3 more.
Go.
Hey, Jim, yeah. One quick question. I assume the circle on the outside was a burn-in one.
Yeah, the black lines. Yeah. Oh, if you think that's an inlay, that's the next generation's. Anyway.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jim. That was interesting and very ingenious. And I'm going to jump you, Jim, because you got to share last week, and go to Barry, who didn't. What do you got, Barry?
The wig stands that the club made for Barshinger Cancer Center were quite successful, and a woman went to get a couple there, and she was turned away because she's not a current client. She's had cancer for several years, and anyhow, the woman contacted me and wants me to make her 4 or possibly 6 wig stands, but with the unusual requirement that they should only be 8 or 9 inches tall. Now, it's possible she had correlated height with cost. I don't know. Anyhow, she has short wigs. And so one I made to show her that I really wasn't too keen on how squatty they looked when they get that short. But this is a white oak one. Just 3 pieces of white oak.
That weighs about 9 pounds, that one.
I'm sorry?
That's the heavy one. That's very heavy, that one.
Yes, it's probably about 4 pounds.
Yeah.
John felt it yesterday and thought it was possibly still very wet, but I did a moisture test on the underside, and I don't really trust my moisture meter all that much, but the prick thing, and it showed 14%. So I don't know.
Yeah.
The other one is wood that I've had around for a while, walnut, and she said she wanted them, each of them, to be different and each to be a little unusual. So this one is my first attempt at getting away from the squattiness, was to make it so it had like this fountain of 4 stems of walnut coming up, and so they attach to you can kind of see a 1 1/4 inch tall spud on the bottom here. The 4 attached to that through hidden dowels on the inside, and then they are just up on top. I turned the underside so it matched the flange, if you will, and that is only glue holding it up there. I have to think about, do I want to put pins in there, and do I make them visible or whatever? It's just a walnut one, and it's probably about 1.5 pounds, and about 1/3 the weight of the white oak one. That's it.
I would definitely put a pin in there. Any questions for Barry?
Barry, we made some wig stands. Our club did, Quad State Modgers, and one of the requests that we had too was make them shorter.
What about making them shorter?
For the short wigs, I guess that seems to be the trend rather than the long wigs. Most of the people are using short wigs, and they wanted shorter stands.
Yeah, the ones that we turned as a club tended to run anywhere from 13 to 15.5 inches. And when I first turned the 15.5 inch one, I did think it looked a little bit ungainly. It was all column. But then when I got making these for her, I thought I'd say the sweet spot would probably be somewhere around 11.5, 12 inches overall height. No matter how short their hair is, if they want to have something that is that harmonizes with the short hair, they might want to have a floor stand model or something, and have it erected on a curved tripod or a decorative tripod. Anyhow, I'm making 4 of these for her. I got to get creative on the other 2 designs.
Barry, do you know if all the other ones have been used by clients there?
I don't know that. I know this lady went, she saw them on display, so there were still some that were left, and she wanted one, and she was told that because she was a Barshinger client, but she was a Barshinger client several years ago, and they said these are being made available for current clients. So I don't know. I didn't drop by to see how many they had left.
Are you their contact point? Because it would be a wonderful charity for other members, in the club to, to contribute to if you get requests.
Sure.
We made 28 of them this spring as a club and took them over there, and we'll do that again.
Well, I was just wondering because I know I turned mine in late with Barry helped me out with that, but the if they come up during the year and they need more, if they go through Barry and you make it known, maybe other members can contribute, without waiting a whole year.
Yeah, I would say if you live in the driving area near Barshinger, you could drop it off. It's a very convenient. You go up to the second floor in Barshinger. It's immediately on the right. It's the Office of Image Restoration, and they are. After a brief conversation with them, they are honoring our original request of giving them away for free. At first, they were going to charge, and I had a concern about if somebody couldn't afford one, and they'd walk out with a little cardboard stand, and so they are giving them away for free, and with the wig and wig styling and such. So I was happy to hear that. And I don't know how many hairless cancer victims there are in a given month there, but probably more than we could make stands for. So I know they would appreciate any more.
Thank you.
Here in Edmonton,
if you want to bring them by, or I can forward the executive director of the Barshinger Center is now a club member. He showed up at the not last week's meeting, but last month's meeting, and he made a beautiful nutcracker. It was about 18 inches or 20 inches tall. It demonstrated very good spindle work on it. So I hope he stays with wood turning and active with Barshinger. He'd be a good go-between.
That's for sure.
Yeah, so Barry, you making the short ones, which is really interesting. Well, here in Edmonton, we made some, and we had a specific request for the other extreme, so we had to make a couple of 24-inch stands because they had a couple of wigs with long hair.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was thinking, boy, Cher could use something like that for stage wigs.
Yeah,
put a thumb screw in the middle and make them adjustable.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah, that idea occurred to me, or just provide more than one spindle, like a spindle with an adapter top, and you can add a piece onto it or something.
Well, let me ask how many of you guys in other clubs are also take wig stands as a project for cancer patients? Is this pretty common among clubs now? I see the Quad State, I see Edmonton, I see Susquehanna and Hamilton. Yeah, it looks like a lot of clubs do this. Very interesting. Good project.
And there's definitely a need. We give ours to the Cross Cancer Institute, and they indicated that they have about 40 people a month. So they'll be more than happy to take anything we make. We'll never supply the full demand, but they'll take everything that we make.
And do they give them away or sell them? They
give them away. And that's the whole idea, is that they're going through enough of a hassle right now. They don't have to have an added expense. The wigs are a donation, and so are the wig stands.
Yeah, our center was shut down over COVID, so we're hoping to get going again.
Barry, you need to figure out a way to mount it on a mannequin. Then the woman or man could get a feel of what that'll look like on top of them when they put it on.
Well, I did offer to actually. I measured a styrofoam head that my late wife's wig came with, and it was like right at 9.5 inches tall, and it was for a short wig. And I had thought, that gave me the idea of just turning, if not a solid wood head, glue like staves at some separation. So it was like an 8-stave head shape thing. And I might still do that, but then since they're free, I get behind on other things, and I'm giving these away, and they're costing me about $10 in wood each time. So I don't want to make it transactional, but
there it is. And here we are at the top of the hour, leaving both Jim and Mike with their hands up. So you guys will have priority next time we do show and tell. Next week, though, we're going to have a special guest who's Dave Hout from Ohio. Some of you guys know Dave. Dave's a very inventive turner who's taught an awful lot of people. He's a friend of Ernie's, and Ernie's going to bring him in and lead the interview. Is that right, Ernie?
That's correct.
And has he got his slides set up, or do we need to help him with that?
I'll help him if necessary, but I think he's well up to it. The big problem is for all of us is that a lot of our pictures go so back so far they're prints in a drawer in black and white. So
yeah,
we may have to scan a few.
So anyway, we'll have Dave Hout. I don't know if he'll fill a full hour or not, but we will have a special that he's going to be our June special guest. And with that, thank you all for your diligent attention today. It's been as always a very interesting coffee hour, and we'll see you all next week.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.